Welcome to Faith Meets Fate, where we explore connection and meaning through the stars. Hello, everybody. We're back at Faith Meets Fate. I am Ryan Hunt, and I'm here with Bianca and Mindy today. We are going to be exploring Mindy's story in a little bit, but just before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping and some announcements. We just want to make sure that if you're interested in connecting with any one of us, our websites are in the description below. Our social media handles will be there as well. We all give readings, and you're welcome to book a personal consultation with any of us if anything that's going on in your life resonates with the topics that we discuss. So just feel free to connect with anything in the description. It'll have social media handles, websites, all the links to connect with all of us. And you can follow us on Substack at faithmeetsfate.com. So feel free to head over there. And the Substack has our videos published as well. We are going to be planning to maybe do some articles and posts on the written posts. And you can also catch us on through your podcast platform, through either Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So feel free to connect on the podcast or YouTube or whatever channel works for you all. And we had, I'm giving a course starting in January, the 5 cosmic catalysts for your best year yet in 2026 with Synchronicity University. And up until December 31st, you have the opportunity to choose your own tuition rate, which goes down as low as $5 a class. So this is a 5-class course, so this would be at $25 if you want to take the low end. You can always pay more. It's appreciated. But up until December 31st, you can choose your own tuition rate for that, and would encourage anybody who's interested to sign up and see what that's about. I'll be covering the archetypes of the planets for Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and Uranus for the year. And we'll be talking about how those archetypes we can pay attention to those and then harness the planets and make connections with them that help us to have a great year. So I think that's all of our announcements out of the way. And now we're going to be connecting with Mindy's story today. Now I want to say that, we just had Bianca part 1. Part 2 is going to come later, but we are going to be focusing on Mindy right now. So Mindy, you've had a fascinating and interesting life story, the things that we've talked about and we've connected with. You've had a journey in your own personal life, the life with your friends and family, your children. And, I think, when I hear the details of your story, I'm just blown away with, what you've gone through and where you're at now as a result of that. So, maybe you can just start by kind of talking a little bit about your background and lead into the story of where your background and your faith transition or crisis or whatever you want to call it, how did that come into play? And then where did you end up coming into astrology? So yeah, I mean, that's a lot, but maybe just start digging in and we can chat a little bit as we go through.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And I just quickly want to say to everybody, jump in on this deal with Ryan, because what a great opportunity to start out the year. And Ryan is such a great teacher, and to be able to get it at this price point, take advantage of it. And so
Thank you.
want to kind of shout out for that. So anyway, yeah. So my story, if I go to the beginning, I was born of goodly parents. I have a wonderful family. My parents loved each other. They loved us. The kids all loved each other. There were 7 of us. I was the middle child. And, my big brother, he beat me up as big brothers do. But, I was a tease. I will admit that. One of the favorite pictures of my whole family is it's this ancient picture of me out of a window and my brother on the ground outside with all of his books all over the ground, and he's down there crying. I had to have my little piece. If he was gonna punch me, I was gonna throw all of his stuff out the window. So I know I deserved a little bit of that, beating up, but we ended up becoming really good friends. I was friends with all of my siblings, and we were close, and we all loved the church. Well, I guess my older sister was a little bit of a rebel, so she tested the waters a bit, opened up our minds a little bit, but overall, we all really stayed close to the church and all of the teachings, and I would say we loved it. Um, I myself was just Molly Mormon. I was your perfect poster child, true blue through
Mm,
and through,
okay.
and, I loved it. I loved the classes. I loved, being I was in all the leadership positions through my youth up into my adulthood, and, I loved general conference. I loved even with my family, my adult family, with my children, if there was something that we could do that was along the religious spectrum, we did it, meaning family home evenings, prayers over everything, morning and night. We did the father's interviews, the blessings before school started. We would do great big, oh, what did we call them in the morning? We would get together before school and we would study scriptures together, and we would find parallels in classical literature. And, like it was everything to me. And And it was for most of my life, right? I was really, really strong all the way up until the last decade. And so, when I was 19, I got married. And at that point, I truly believed if I didn't get married by the time I was 19, I would be an old maid. I would That was kind of the belief of I'd have to go on a mission, and then I would be
It is, and that's a pretty common, like, shared belief or among young women in the Mormon faith, right? I mean, like,
it
you
is.
have to get married, like, early, like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There was something kind of looked down on if you ended up on a mission. It was like you didn't find somebody.
Wow.
Someone didn't
Yeah.
choose you. And so it was the, like, last choice,
Mm.
okay, we're on a mission, so that was my mom was married at 19, my grandma was married at 19, so if I pushed past 19,
Wow.
I was in trouble, So when my big brother's best friend asked me, I said yes. And, his dad was our bishop, my mom taught his family, and so they really everybody it almost felt like an arranged marriage because
What does it
everybody
mean to
just
visit teach? I think that's an important part of this piece of your story, and I don't know that all of our audience would know what it means to
okay.
be a visiting teaching is.
Yeah, and now it's called ministering, right? So
Is it?
within the church, yeah, so within the church,
Oh, I had no idea.
yeah, that's been for years now. The women are assigned, and I guess the men were assigned as well. That was called
Uh-huh.
home teaching.
Yeah.
The women were assigned to be visiting teachers, and so, yeah, my mom was assigned, like, called in by the leadership in the church and said, "Will you go and, on a monthly basis, go visit this family?
Yeah.
Check in, maybe share a little lesson, definitely take a treat," whatever
Uh-huh.
it was
Uh-huh.
that we did. And
Uh-huh.
so that would I mean, that every family had visiting teachers, but you get really close
Yeah.
when you are fulfilling that. So my
Right.
mom would go all the time, right, and really knew their family, and as I said, he was my brother's best friend, so he was just a couple doors down, we knew them, and
Mhm.
so I really barely knew him as an adult. I barely knew him, and yet there was a sense of, this is the thing that God would want me to do.
Mm.
And, in astrological terms, it was a Venus perfection year, and it was my ninth house, and I look back and
Mm.
I think, "Okay, maybe this was a lot of the relation to that divine,"
Mm.
thinking this was what God wanted.
Mhm.
Uh, so, yeah, I got into that marriage, I was married for 7 years, 7 years too long. It was rough. It was really, really rough, but I
Mm.
got 3 beautiful kids and I had one miscarriage right before the divorce, and I always felt like that was an angel to watch over those kids whenever they had to go to visitation.
Mm.
And so it was tough. It was a tough marriage, a lot of sickness, a lot of moving, constantly moving. There was never any money. We truly had actually empty cupboards, and so it was rough. There was abuse, so that was a tough time. So coming out of that, it was really interesting. When I got divorced, my kids were 6, 4, and 2.
Mm.
So just little ones. And I had lost everything. I was top of my class in high school. I was top of my game in the church. I never would have suspected I would find myself needing, WIC and food stamps and all the things. Like everything was just lost. And I went back to school and I told my mom, I feel so full of life. It was literally like the old story of the hand and the glove. Do you remember that? We were always taught in church about the glove is like the body, and when you put the spirit in it, the spirit
Oh,
animates the body.
yeah, I remember that, like, in primary, they would get the glove out. Yeah,
Yep,
I totally forgot
yep.
about that story.
Yeah, well, I lived it. I lived it.
Wow.
It was night and day. When I got divorced, all of a sudden my spirit came back in my body
Mm,
and I was alive. And I told my mom, I'm so happy. It is so much easier
mm,
to be a single mom of 3 little sick kids with no money, really no education, and to do life this way is easier than being married. And she
mm,
said, "Well, that's telling, just how rough it was." Um, so soon after I met my now husband, that was a 4th house perfection year, and it was
mm,
also Venus ruled. So, I
mm.
did do my marriages under Venus, so I guess that works.
Yeah,
But this
totally.
time it was for abundance, it was family, it was love, right?
Mm,
That connection
mhm,
was wonderful. So, he had been married before, he had 1 child from his first. So, when we got married, we have 4 little kiddos that we started our
mm,
life with. So, a little different newlywed experience, to be sure, dealing with exes and little people, potty training and no sleep, and both of us working and at school, and there was a lot there. But it was lovely. It still is. Yay,
mm.
22 years later, it's still wonderful.
It is
So
wonderful.
it is. It's
Yeah.
really we've gone through so much together, and this journey with the church was a big part of that. Fast forward, we had a couple of kids, and then back in 2009, we had a little girl who died during birth,
Mm,
and um, that was, of course, super traumatic. It was, brutal on my body and on the whole family. And the ward was wonderful. They really showed up to
mm,
help take care of the kids, to bring food. It's funny, people don't know how to respond to trauma.
mm.
They don't. They mean well, but like I had one lady say, "Oh, but at least you have other kids, so it's okay," or "You're lucky you have
Really?
other." Yeah, and I had another sweet lady, she came and cleaned my kitchen, and she said to my daughter, "We're gonna clean up the house really nice so that your mom will stop crying." I was like, "Well, that's not gonna work, but
Yeah.
thank you for your help," like, such good intent,
Yeah,
like, I will give that absolutely, they totally showed up, they were wonderful. I
yeah,
just I it's sad, people don't know how to respond to trauma, and I know that they want to comfort and just don't understand, you know?
yeah.
So, anyway, that was one of the initial seeds of doubt was planted at that time. During that whole experience while I was in the hospital, it was a very traumatic birth experience, so I had to be there for a long time. And the bishop that I was in came to visit, and said the stake president, so these are all the different leadership positions within the church. So the stake president is kind of higher than the bishop, right?
Right.
So he oversees them. So the stake president gave the message to the bishop to convey to me at the hospital that if we wanted to give our baby a blessing, that was fine, but we could not give her an official church, name and a blessing that then goes on the records of the church.
Mm.
And so in terms of our what we considered an eternal family, she would not be counted on the records.
That's
And
wild.
yeah, it was bonkers, to
Totally.
be in a faith that believes in eternal families. And I know they said you'll get to raise her in the millennium, you'll get her back. But in this earth experience, when we go to the temple, when we have our family history, which the church is known for, this is something that she wouldn't be a part of. She would,
Did they say that you couldn't even do like ordinances for the dead, like baptism for the dead for her, or?
I never even asked that. I never got
Mm.
That's really interesting. I never thought of that. I think there was the belief that she was pure and didn't need it. You remember that? If they
Oh
died before
yeah,
8, they didn't
that's
need
right. If
to.
you die before you're 8, you're pure and you don't need to be baptized. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. I
So,
remember.
being that my husband and I had been married in the temple, the understanding was that all of the kids were born under the covenant,
Under
meaning
the covenant. Yeah.
they're part
Got
of that eternal family, right?
Oh god.
And
Yeah.
so to be told that she wouldn't actually be included, I mean, it was mixed signals, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And my belief was strong enough at the time to say, okay, it's not going to be on the church records, but I will get her. I will get her back. And
Yeah.
so I made it through that hiccup, but I look back and I think, yeah, there was a little seed of
Mm.
this is wonky. This is just weird that there would be kind of again that, and I know this word can be loaded, but the patriarchal line, the
Mm.
hierarchy of
Mhm.
being told how it's going to play out in the eternities.
Mhm.
And so that was one, initial kind of bugaboo that I had to get through.
Mm.
But then fast forward again, I after her, I had another miscarriage, and then I had another little guy, and then I had 3 more miscarriages. So in total, I've been pregnant 12 times. And I've got 6 kids that made it, and then 1 bonus from my husband, so we've got 7, which is fantastic, and then I feel like
Mhm.
I've got all these angel babies, because all my kids need a special helper. So,
Yeah.
we've got all of them. Um, but yeah, moving into the more recent years, another big point, a big turning point for me was when my oldest child came out, as part of the queer community.
Mm.
And I knew it. I and I find peace in that. I really knew it. I knew
Mm.
this about my child,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I didn't feel, um, angry. There wasn't that kind of harsh judgment. I had already gone through it. My brother had been married to his partner for a decade, and so we'd already been kind of exposed to that world, but it was still this kind of evil thing.
Mm.
We
Mhm.
were raised to believe that that was the basis of Sodom and Gomorrah, out of the Bible, and it was just they weren't going to make it to heaven,
Mm.
and so that was my understanding, and yet I kind of take comfort in myself knowing that I knew my child, and
Mhm.
I felt that truth and, spent time really supporting even though I didn't understand how to make it jive with my beliefs, and
Mm.
that's really where I think it started to shake.
Mhm.
I could feel as the church was shaming and, isolating, they were not allowed to come to the youth activities because, "Oh, those don't cross over," "We've
Mm.
got mixed gender, we don't do that," and so there was a lot of really painful things that I was experiencing via my child, right? Like, I'm watching it through their eyes and feeling it as an empathic person, really feeling it.
Mm.
So that started to rattle things, and I've even told this is my oldest, I've said, like, really, you were the one that started me on this path of a
Mhm.
new life,
Mm.
you know, and I am so grateful for that.
Wow.
Um, so soon after that, I've been sick, really, really sick all of my life, in and out of sickness. But I got really sick after I had my last baby and then the 3 miscarriages, things really took a turn, and I I ended up really being bedridden. I couldn't eat for about 3 months, so I lost 40 pounds. I was a little gray, my skin was gray. I was 90 pounds, I had internal bleeding, my
Wow.
organs had pretty much all shut down. Um, it was really scary. It was scary. So every minute of every day, it was a full-time job just to keep me alive, and
Mm.
at the time, I had a, toddler, and so I was not allowed to pick him up. I that was a really rough time, but it meant that it gave me a space where I could really dive into, my own beliefs. I mean, I spent so much time studying and writing. I've always been an intense journaler, and so I've got a million journals, and I spend a lot of time there. And it was during this time that, my doctor, who has been such a blessing to me, he just said to me, "You've gotta go get to know who the Savior is, because you're not it. You you keep, trying to take on everybody's problems, and it's making you really sick, and so you've gotta go get to know Jesus." And so I spent a ton of time just really diving into the scriptures, reading the church approved books. I would never veer off of that, and
Mhm.
so I stayed there, and I listened to podcasts, and I would spend quite a lot of time in a sauna every day. And I would just sit there and study and write and pray. And I had some very profound experiences. Some that I would say are the kind that you don't share on a podcast, like, just really profound. And that was really the turning point, because they were so profound that what I came to understand was that, we were always told to not rely on the arm of flesh, to
Mm.
have, no man come between you and God.
Mhm.
And I realized that there were so many things that we had been taught in the church that we were not living.
Mm.
I had absolutely put my trust, my faith, everything on the arm of flesh, on all of the rituals, the routines, the ordinances, all those things. And it felt um, a little bit like the Wizard of Oz. Um, just don't look behind the curtain. The Wizard of Oz will make all the promises that you will have all of these things fulfilled in the eternities if you obey, all of the check boxes. And I had already experienced that so many of those promises had not been fulfilled with the changing in my family.
Mm.
Like, I mean, I've got a gay child.
Mm.
Your promises were not fulfilled. I've lost my child forever
Mm.
based on what I've been taught. And it just started to not work.
Hmm.
You know, things were not making sense.
Mm.
And, so I started studying really intensely some, what might have been considered fringe. I studied Nag Hammadi texts,
Mhm.
the Gospel of the Beloved Companion.
Yeah, I love the Nagamati. Yeah, totally.
They're beautiful, right?
Sure, yeah.
Um, yeah, so I dug into that. I started taking classes with these kind of fringe groups that were
Mhm.
digging into the, stories being told a little differently. So
Mhm.
when I when I actually left, when I stopped attending church, it was different than a lot of people. I was not in an angry place.
Mm.
I I stayed connected, like, for a long time. I believed that Joseph Smith was still good and right, the Book of Mormon was still good and right, and that it was Brigham Young that sent it off course.
Oh,
So,
okay.
if we could go back to the original, then we'd be okay.
Oh, got it.
So that was my path for a while.
Wow.
And so I was really trying to have that connection with God more directly.
Right.
And so, like I said, I wasn't an angry, rebellious. I wasn't going off to party, none of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so as I went through the healing journey of my body, which as might be able to read into,
Mm.
I did start to heal once I shifted within the church.
Mm.
So as my body got stronger and I had the opportunity to start traveling. And that was another big part of my journey in the faith,
Mm.
because I was really searching specifically at the time. I got really into the divine feminine.
Mm.
And, as a female, as a mother, and having been told that my eternity would be made up of mothering, I
Mhm.
was just gonna have kids forever. That was
Mhm.
my role, me and all the other wives to the one God.
Forever and ever. Right.
I thought I need to know who a heavenly mother is,
Mm.
right? If that's who I'm
Mm.
supposed to become.
Yeah.
And so I went on that path, and the traveling that I did was, oh, it was so fantastic. It was
Mm.
so fantastic. I started with England and
Mhm.
Scotland. I went to France and Fiji, went to Germany and to Egypt. And originally the goal was to find Mary Magdalene as a equal companion to Jesus, and equal in all things, equal both in the, spiritual powers as well as the earthly experience.
Yeah.
And, and I'll tell you, I did find it. I did find that.
Wow.
That narrative exists everywhere.
Yeah.
So, all you have to do is look at the
Yeah.
stories out in the world, like The Matrix or Beauty and the Beast or
Yeah.
Cinderella. In order for the handsome prince to go out and save the world, the princess has to save the prince first. And that
Mm.
that is a storyline that exists all over.
Yeah.
So, that was a really fun thing to experience. Interestingly, though, that was only part of the journey. I didn't stop there.
Mm.
And what I discovered in traveling is that people are good and kind and beautiful everywhere,
Mhm.
and they believe just as strongly as I did all growing
Mm.
up
Mhm.
in the God of their world, of their faith. They sacrificed just as much,
Mm.
oftentimes more.
Mhm.
And, it became so obvious how, arrogant it was to say
Mhm.
that my faith was the one and only true church, and all the rest of them were not going to make it to
Mm.
their loving God
Mhm.
without coming through my way.
Right.
And so that was very eye-opening and such a beautiful, beautiful experience. And so that I love the world. I love experiencing the world. I love being in sacred places.
Mhm.
And when I say sacred places, it doesn't even matter to whom it is sacred.
Mm.
So like I found a labyrinth, the one that matches the labyrinth in Chartres.
Mhm.
That labyrinth is all over. And,
Yeah.
I found one in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and
Yeah.
just went because it was sacred,
Yeah.
it was sacred to these people.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of my journey, is discovering how much more there is. And, the idea of having love for everyone, for everything, to me, that is the definition of God.
Mm.
And I think we use the word God as a placeholder because we don't know really.
Mm.
We personify, and that's okay.
Mhm.
That's what we're comfortable with. But I
Mhm.
think everything around us, everything is
Mm.
made up of the the actual material and texture of our world is actually love.
Mm.
so, to bring in astrology, when I first had my original astrology reading, the
Mhm.
first time, it truly felt more profound than my patriarchal blessing.
Mm.
And the patriarchal blessing is something that, within the church, you're
Yeah.
given it when you reach a certain age and you qualify, meaning you go get interviews and get
Your
permission.
personal prophecy, right?
Right. Yeah, you get all these promises from some man I've never met before,
Right.
and it was beautiful. Again, I was very grateful for my experience, but having that astrology natal chart reading the first time was so profound. To have someone who I'd never met say to me, "Are you the black sheep of the family?"
Hmm.
No, no. I am like the most pristine, I walk that straight line. Oh no, that within 2 years I'd be breaking everything up, by leaving the religion, and a couple of siblings have followed, and, like,
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize, with Aquarius rising and Aquarius moon, I had some individuating I had to do,
Yeah.
and, there were a lot of things that she shared with me that I then spent years studying because I thought, either she just nailed me,
Yeah.
or this thing doesn't work at all, because there
Yeah.
are things here that I don't understand. There are things about myself that didn't resonate.
Mm.
And what's fascinating is those were the ones that I learned the most from.
Uh-huh.
Because when it didn't resonate, but I sat with it, I realized that's where my culture, my familial upbringing, the religious upbringing had unintentionally
Yeah.
muted those parts of my life.
Mm.
I was homogenized, right? I was just kind of one of the group. And when I had this astrology reading and there were parts in there that I had never explored, and then I discovered they were actually true to me.
Do you remember what astrologically what configuration in your chart, she identified with you as being the black sheep?
Well,
Did
I
she
think
tell
it must
you?
have been the Aquarius. I do think it was the Aquarius rising.
Aquarius rising.
I think that had to have been kind of the
Uh,
big one. But I also have, the moon there in the first house in Aquarius,
uh,
squares, my great big stellium in
yeah.
Taurus in
Yeah.
the 4th.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to have such a full 4th house
Right.
because, really big home roots, family,
Yeah.
yeah, belief systems,
Yeah.
even even the family setting, right? Like, I have a lot
Mm.
of siblings, we had a big home. When I
Mhm.
had this chart read, I was an adult.
Mm.
I have a huge home. I have a
Mhm.
huge family. I
Mm.
have millions of books, like,
Mm.
everything was just Jupiter and Taurus in the 4th,
Mhm. Mhm.
Mercury cazimi, my son next to Venus, Jupiter, South Node, part of fortune, all of that in the 4th house.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot that I feel connected to with my foundation, with my family, with this upbringing. And again, for me, there was beauty. Sure, there have been issues. I've learned a lot about corruption. I've
Mm.
learned a lot about some of the ugly things that go on behind that Wizard of Oz curtain.
Yeah.
But
It's
I kind of
funny.
Oh, go ahead,
Sorry.
Bianca.
It's funny you brought up Wizard of Oz because we just watched Wicked last night for the first time. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, synchronicities all over the place. I do believe in that.
Yeah. But I was also thinking about how you've got the Taurus, the angular houses being of the fixed nature. And I know that with the modalities, fixed signs can be the most, the will take the longest for something to show up or like for change to come about, so with fixed rising sign, fixed moon, then the Taurus stellium, it's like a lot of these changes that were coming up as from when I'm listening to your story all came up like little seeds were planted, but it almost kind of felt like we're going decades into your life and now like things are starting to slowly change. It's like that slow realization that's all kind of coming to a head. So yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because I think I've shared this with you before, Bianca. Like, because of that fixedness, I have often thought I was never flexible in my beliefs at all. And I've joked that my one great sin all growing up was that I was totally self-righteous. I mean, I certainly wouldn't swear. I wouldn't be late. You name it, I was not gonna bend on that, right?
Mm.
And I truly believed that I was taught what was right and what was wrong. I knew.
Mhm.
And so whoever around me, whomever didn't live up to that, they were wrong, you know?
Mm.
I
Mm.
used to yell a song to my sister. Do you remember the Goody Two Shoes? Do you remember that old song? Don't drink, don't smoke. You don't drink, you don't smoke. What do you do? Do you remember that?
I kinda remember it. Yeah, it's an old
Anyway, those
song.
lyrics I would say to her because she was rebellious, and I would just, "Don't drink, don't smoke," because she was
Oh, and it
bad.
kinda had a little rhyme to it. It's like, "Don't drink, don't smoke, you're a goody two shoes," or something like that.
Yeah,
It was like that kinda like thing,
yeah,
like that taunting,
exactly.
kind of like
It turns out I was the goody two shoes,
um,
and kind of ironic that the song was turned on me, but, um, yeah, I was not flexible at all, and
Mhm.
so I've often thought, when all of these things came to light for me, I snapped. I wasn't able to flow with it. I just broke.
mhm,
And for me, that meant leaving.
Mhm.
I have many, many friends now who have gone inactive, but they don't care whether they stay on the records of the church or not. I'm too fixed. I
Mhm.
made a decision, I had to go all the way, and
Mhm.
so for me, I didn't want that connection. I felt like I needed a clean break, and so I feel like what you just shared, Bianca, helps me to see the path
Mm.
to that place. And, there were a lot of other things along the way. I mean, I got involved in some crazy cult stuff in between, so leaving one cult, stepping into some others.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
wanna dig
yeah.
into that.
Yeah,
It's kind of
there's
like
that versus
we're
another one.
navigating this
Yeah,
life after
cliffhanger.
religion, and even if it means we jump into another something similar and realize, oh, this is just as culty as the last one I left. Yeah.
It took me
Um,
a minute to get over, or to recognize narcissists. Took me a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah.
Yeah,
mhm.
and so,
Um,
had to do a bunch to
there's
get out of
another
that.
thing that I was thinking about your chart in, I mean, maybe this is going off a bit, or maybe I'm not remembering correctly here, but your chart ruler is where it's in Cancer, right?
Cancer,
And
6th house. Mhm.
that's in the 6th house. So,
And
and for me, I'm
hereditary.
thinking how so 6th house of routines and health, it can be, and then I thought some of the things that you shared in your story was like, because it's a Cancer is a it's a tropical sign, so it's like tropos, turning, right? And it's like the initiating of something. So I almost kind of feel like if I'm combining the cardinal tropical aspect of Cancer with your chart ruler in there in the 6th house of health, it almost seems like the seeds that were being planted were at times where it had something to do with your health, like, or it had something to do with you and your children, like, your the stillborn, and then having the conversations with your doctor about having 3 miscarriages, and then you lost a lot of weight, and um, so it's almost kind of like these health things are showing up with your chart ruler in Cancer in the 6th house, and then bringing it's planting seeds of doubt in terms of like your trajectory, and it's almost kind of like it becomes a catalyst later on somehow, like once you've done you're fixed, like studying and like reading up and like meditating and like, sitting in the sauna and like, trying to find answers, traveling.
Mm.
And then you slowly come to the truth or the realization that you need to come to. But it took time. But it's like, I just think it's interesting, the chart ruler in the sixth house of a tropical sign was, really, it seems like I was just seeing a little bit of that pattern in your story as you were sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I realize as you say that as well, that would make my ninth house Libra, that would Saturn would be the
Squaring.
ruler there,
Mhm.
right? But yes.
Yeah.
And actually, as I looked back over the transits, and we can of course talk more about this as we continue through,
Yeah.
future
Yeah.
podcasts. But for me, the biggest change was in 2017.
Mm.
And when I look at what was going on in the mundane transits, that was when Jupiter was it squaring? I think, transiting Pluto was squaring, transiting Jupiter.
Mm.
And for me, that was a ninth, 12th house thing.
Mhm.
And so I'm having Pluto going through my 12th house. I'm home, I'm sick, I'm isolated, all of these things, but I'm also unraveling.
Mm.
And Jupiter going through, the ninth house. I mean, that's, for those to be in a square, there was some things, and my natal Pluto is in that ninth house as well. So I was getting a Pluto square.
The square, and also, I think you said your Saturn is in the third decan of Cancer, so that would have been somewhere in the transiting Pluto in the 12th house, opposing your chart ruler thereabouts in the 6th house. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, it was pretty intense. It was pretty intense.
and Saturn opposite Pluto. Oh yeah, that's really intense.
But yeah, and then we get to experience Uranus going over my stellium, so
Mhm.
there were
In
a lot of
Taurus,
things.
the 4th.
Yeah, a lot that lined up. So once again, when we talk about fate, the idea of things happening, one of the phrases that I find myself using the most with clients, people that I'm sharing this with, is that you're right on time.
Yeah.
You're right on time. All of these things, you can see it. You can see it right there in the chart. I can see that. I don't know how things are going to play out. I don't know which way it's going to go.
Mhm.
There are a lot more things that have happened that I didn't share.
Mhm.
At this point, I've got 2 kids who are transgender, and we get to love and support them where they are.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come with shame. It doesn't come with, "You're not gonna make it." Like, there's so many beautiful things that have happened, and so I come to this place with an open heart and an open mind. I see the blessing of the church, of the religion. People love it, they need it, that's fine, you know?
Mm.
For me, I'm in a different place. It doesn't mean I'm better. I'm just in a
Mm.
different place.
Yeah.
And it is serving me, it is serving my family, and I hope that I will continue to serve within the community using astrology, using my, voice as a mom, having gone through, all of the parenting, all of the sickness, the near death,
Mhm.
spine surgery, you name it, like,
Yeah.
divorce, I've got a long list that I feel like I hope I can use those things to
Yeah.
turn around and bless others with.
Well, I think we've got a good starting ground, I mean, just like Bianca's got more to her story, you've got more to yours. I think maybe this is a good place to kind of close it up for right now, and those are a lot of teasers for what's going to be on Mindy's part 2. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to digging more into that. And yeah, just reminder, check out the description for our links to our socials and websites. Remind about my class with Synchronicity University. That link will also be in the description. And am I forgetting? Oh, subscribe to the channel, please. Like this video, all that good stuff. Before we close out, any last words from either of you?
Thank you, Mindy, for sharing your story. yeah, I can't wait to get more into it because I have a lot more thoughts on that. So yeah, I really appreciate your openness today.
Thank
Me
you.
too.
Thank you for
Yeah.
creating the safe space, and I love your additional insights. So thank you for that. I'm grateful.
All right, everybody, take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.